All right. Now, I sent you out the solutions. All right, but today what I want to do is I'm just going to go through step by step. There's like 50 questions or 53 or something like that.
Yeah.
I really want to kind of go through individually and talk to you. The test is very similar. There's a few things I want to touch on because there's some definitions that you have to know: independent, dependent, what's a function, x-intercepts, y-intercepts, those types of things. The functional notation seems to be a problem. But really, the math is the absolute value equations. All right. So I'm going to scroll down. All right. I ask you to work as much as you can. You have the solutions. All right. If you're not sure about something, now's the time to speak up. Okay. So again, number one. All right. Does anybody have any issue with it being C?
No, sir.
All right. What about number 2 being A? Everybody okay?
Yeah. That's what
All right. Now moving forward. Anybody have any questions with 3 or 4? 3 is C.
I have a question, but it's on like a.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're gonna wait. We're gonna get through the end. All right. If I'm not just interrupted continuously. All right. So 4 is D. 5 is A. Everybody good with this?
That's fine. Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. All right. As I scroll through, you got to let me know. Determine whether the relation is a function. Remember, a function is if all of the x values are different. All right. So for number 6, I got A. For 7, I have A. For 8 is no. And remember, 9 is yes because it's a horizontal line. All right? Yes, sir.
Was number 2 and 3, is it A and C?
Yeah, come on. Stay with me. Yes, ma'am.
For number 9.
Okay, let's talk about number 9. Yeah, very important. I spent some time reviewing this. All right, so let's talk about it because tomorrow it could be either one. All right, all lines are functions except for vertical lines. And we talked about y equals 2. Y equals 2 would be considered a horizontal line. So bear with me on that. So this is the equation for y equals 2. Now that does pass the vertical line test, so we say it is a function.
Oh, I see.
Right? If we talked about x equals 2, you have to remember was the vertical line. All right, so try to remember that. Very safe, easy way to do it.
So would it matter? So what if it was like x or y equals 3?
Then it's
Okay.
automatically a function.
Okay.
The only one that's not a function is x equals.
Okay.
All right, the only one that's not a function is x equals. That's a good way to remember it. All right, all lines are functions except vertical lines. All right. Now the functional notation stuff. All right. Again, just replacing x with whatever number or whatever letter there is. So when everybody look at number 10 is B, 11 is A, 12 is C. Anybody have any questions with 10, 11, 12? Yes.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah, hold on, just on 13, because I'm going to slide it up so it's easier to see. So anybody have any question with 10, 11, or 12? Okay. Now let's talk about the ones that are a little bit trickier.
I also have a question on 13.
Yep, here we go, right now. Let's take a look at 13. So 13 means to replace x with what? H plus 9. You're replacing x with h plus 9. So that's exactly what I did. This originally was x. I replaced it with h plus 9. Then I distributed, then I combined terms. Does that make sense now why it's 2h plus 12?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And now 14 is the one that was pretty hard, so let me erase all this so you can see the original part. Now, for 14, remember, I replaced x with b, then I added 1, then I multiplied by 2. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Any questions with 14? All right, let's keep going. Yes, good.
What does the G mean?
The g is the function. There were two functions, f and g, remember?
Yeah.
The f function up here
Oh, okay.
and the g function. So the reason why there's a difference is just so you know which one to plug it into.
Okay.
So if it says f, you plug it into the f. If it's g, you plug it into the g. All right? So here we go. Everybody take a look at 15 and 16.
Can you do number 15?
Yep. Okay, so let's look carefully right here. And the other thing I want you to remember, if you have your calculator, I want you to check your work tomorrow if you can. All right, your calculator, it's the math button, and then you slide over one, and absolute value is the first button.
We're going to get to use this for the test.
Yeah, I don't care when you use your calculator. I told you to. But this is too quick to do this. I mean, it's easier to just do it in my head than it is in the calculator. All right, the numbers are small enough. You should be good. Caroline, you see your mistake?
Yeah, I did. Thank
All
you.
right. That's the important part. Find your mistakes. Correct your own mistakes if you can. Anybody have any issues now? All right, 15 and 16 I thought were pretty good. Now, those are expressions. So you just tell me what the answer is. I believe the next problems are the equations. Now, if you recall the equations, all right, you're going to get two solutions for the equations. So you would set 2z minus 9 equals 1. Then you would set 2z minus 9 equal to negative 1. Everybody okay with that? Anybody have any issues on that? Tell me.
For 18, how did you get T1? Because I accidentally got T negative equals negative 5. And then for the other one, I got T equals 5.
Subtract 6, right?
Yeah.
And you got what? 3.
Oh, I did it. Okay.
You with me now, right?
Yeah.
As long as you got it. As long as you figured out your mistake. Anybody else? Yeah, now 19 is the one I want to take a look at, boys. Come on, stay focused. Test tomorrow. Now, why is 19 different? 19 is different because the absolute value is not isolated. Is everybody with me? So, what do you need to do? You have to isolate the absolute value. In order to isolate the absolute value, you have to add 4 and then divide by 9. Is everybody good with that? And now you end up with the absolute value of x is equal to 3. You good on this, girls? You guys all right? What?
Wait, why did you say negative? Oh, wait, no.
Because it can be 3 or negative 3. Imagine, absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Absolute value of 3 is 3.
Wait, I thought when like you get an absolute value, it was something positive.
The answer has to be positive.
Oh.
The x value can be negative,
Okay. Okay.
right? That's the important thing. Whenever I take the absolute value, something will always be positive. But when I take the absolute value of a negative, I'm okay with doing that. All right, is everybody good with this? Good.
So what did you do with -4?
So remember, to isolate, to undo a minus 4.
Plus 4.
Yeah,
Oh, I
there
see.
you go. And then to get rid of the times 9, divide by 9. Everybody's good? All right, that's a big part of the test now. 3 or 4 questions dealing with can you do absolute values. I don't think that's that hard. Now, the next big chunk, of course, is the percent problems. All right? So let's take a look at those. And again, if you don't remember the formula, you're in a little bit of trouble, right? So tomorrow, the formula, make sure you know the percent of increase or decrease is always the change divided by the original amount. The change divided by the original amount. Now, I don't care if you write 44.4%. I think it's nice if you know that that's the same as 44 4/9. But I don't care how you write it. Does anybody have any questions with those? That's just plugging numbers into calculators. Yes?
We don't have a calculator. It's okay to use your iPads.
No, not allowed to use your iPads. So bring a calculator.
So on the test, we don't have to rate decrease or
I don't care about that. Right? If you can't tell me if something's increasing or decreasing, you have a problem. All right? All right. All I care about, what's the change? 44%, 60%, 21, 136. Everybody good? I don't think that's that hard. All right, moving forward. Now we're talking about your total cost. Paying your tax. Does anybody have any issues with 25, 26, or 27? And why is it 1.065, 1.06, or 1.05? Everybody okay with that? That's not too bad, right? You've been doing that for a long time. All right. Now you have to understand the discount. So instead of adding the percent, you do what this time? Subtract the percent. Right? So that's where I'm getting 0.75, 0.9, and 0.55. Yes? Yes, ma'am.
So can you tell me if you got 0.7?
Now remember, the only thing is we're dealing with money.
I see.
Right? So if you're dealing with money, you round to the nearest penny. But if you're doing percent, I always like to just say round to the nearest tenth of a percent. All right, if you're talking about percentages. Money's to the penny. All right, now the only one that's a little bit difficult is 31 because now there's a discount and there's a tax. Does anybody have any issue with that?
Just
What?
I'm going to say
Cole, you okay on that?
yes.
Right? And again, I'm telling you, when you come to my desk tomorrow and say, I don't know what's wrong with my calculator, I can't help you. You have to fix your calculator now. If you're having trouble with your calculator now, I want to know. If you're not sure about why it's always saying syntax error, I want to tell you now. I don't want to tell you tomorrow. All right? You have to know how to use your calculator. Anybody have any questions? Now, 32 is just back to the same problem, right? She wants a percent of increase or decrease. By the way, is everybody okay with 269 times 0.8 times 1.07, right? That's not that hard. You've been doing that a long time now. You should be good at that. Now, the other big important part is solving the literal equations. All right, we have an equation d equals rt, and you're solving for r. Just dividing by t, right? 34 and 35 are kind of the same. All right, yes, ma'am.
For number 36, I got it. It's just in the reverse order. Is that okay?
What do you mean reverse order? X minus v and v minus x are not the same.
No, I meant I did x minus v and then the 3 of
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's on the outside. Just traditionally we put it in the front.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody want me to explain? Yes.
Just split out the number 6. That's okay.
Yes, 36. Here we go. Very, very important. All right, so the first thing I try to show kids, we're isolating the y, right? So that means I have to get rid of the plus v first. All right? And to get rid of plus v, I have to do what? Minus v. You agree with that? And then that's where I came up with this statement. You agree with that?
Now remember, to undo a fraction, we just say you multiply by the reciprocal. So I have to multiply this side by 3/2 also. Because what would happen to the 3/2 here? They do what? Cancel. So y is equal to 3/2 parentheses x minus v.
Why can't you just do x minus b parentheses 2?
Because remember, to get rid of a fraction, remember it's always the reciprocal. Right? Anytime you want to get rid of a fraction, we say you multiply by the reciprocal. Right? Now what I want to do is I want to make sure you see that up here. And it's sometimes a little bit easier to see. So the 2's do what?
Cancel.
Yeah. If there was a 2 and a 3, they don't cancel then. All right? That's why we say we multiply by the reciprocal. Okay. 37 I thought was pretty easy. I just wrote it in some kind of a functional notation. All right, you don't have to do that because they just want to know what the question or what the answer is. How much money will it cost if you drive 25 miles? It's 30 cents per mile. There's a $20 charge per day. Everybody good with this? Now we're back to, is the relation a function? All right. B is the answer, because I told you earlier all lines are functions except what? The vertical lines. Right? Now, why is A not the right answer, though? That's a good little trick question here, because this number right here, that's right, is going to two different values. All right, so every x must have its own y. All right, that was good. If you missed that and you figured out your mistake, that's really good. All right, 39, you're just plugging in -9. Is everybody with me on this? Plug in -9, got -12. Be careful now. 2/3 times -9 is -6. -6 minus 6 is -12.
Oh.
Everybody agree?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Wait, says h equals -9.
Oh yeah, then it's saying like what?
Where does it say h equals -9?
What's the value of h? What is the value of h?
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking.
H of -9. What's the value of h of -9? All right. That means plug -9 in for x. I thought 40 was pretty obvious, correct? Any problem with that being C? Now don't forget, the domain just means the what? The right. Domain are the x values, and the range is the what? Y values. X and Y. Domain, range, alphabetical order.
I was confused because there were 7 like dots, so you had to find the x value of all 7 of those. But on B, there's only 6.
Because the same x value is twice.
5. Oh,
You see what I'm saying? That's a good
Yeah.
observation. So that makes it not a function,
that's why I put C.
right? That's why it's not a function. Does everybody see that now?
Oh.
Make sure you understand what she's trying to say. That's true. You agree now?
Yeah.
All right? And again, the relation is not a function because this x value here and here has 2 y values. The same x has 2 different y's. Does not pass the vertical line test. Everybody good?
Mhm.
Is
43 is B. I'm sorry. 42 was D. We said that because it doesn't pass the vertical line test. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, but
Don't be sorry.
I was wondering about 41.
All right, let's look at 41 one more time. So the domain is the x values, correct? So what I did was, I want you to, a good way to do this is just to circle the points and tell me what is the x value that corresponds to those points. You with me? Right? And then if I said what's the range, you would just tell me what's the y value that corresponds to those points. That's all. All right, is everybody good on that? All right, now the y-intercept. I tried to make sure you understood that. The y-intercept is just where the line crosses the y-axis. That's what y-intercept is.
Yeah, I was also confused.
Okay, let's talk about it then. It's a good little problem. All right, so let's talk about it real quick. So the y-intercept, and I put a little arrow here to show you that's 0. That's the x value, right? So when the x value is 0, the y value is 30. 0 bracelets, $30. That's what that means. So the y-intercept, if you want to try to remember this, because it's important, the y-intercept is simply when the x is 0. All right, that's what that means. All right. Now, I really didn't talk too much about the end behavior. You really should have said it's either C or D because it's increasing. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Now listen to me though. Listen. When you go to a store and you buy a lot of the same thing, does the price of each item, does it continue to get bigger, or is your total cost getting bigger? Yeah, it doesn't. The cost per dozen doesn't increase. When you buy something in bulk, you don't change the price, right? It doesn't get more expensive the more you buy. The price stays the same. But if you buy 10 and then you buy 20 and you buy 30, every time you increase your size, your cost is going up. That's why the correct answer is C. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
I was confused. Sorry.
Okay, let's work this out now. Again, I want to make sure you're hearing me. I want to erase a little bit, and then you tell me if this is true. Okay, so what am I supposed to do? What does that mean to do? Wherever I see an X, I put what? Right. Wherever I see an X, I put R. So all of these originally right here were what?
X.
And I just changed them to what? R. That's all I did. Then after I do that, I take my answer and what do I do to my answer? Multiply it by what?
2.
Multiply it by 2. That's what that number is out in front. That's what that means. Everybody good?
Yeah.
So when I replaced, that's what I ended up getting. Then after I multiplied by 2, this was my answer after I multiplied by 2. Any issues with that? Any questions? All right, let's continue on. Now, for those of you guys who forgot 47, you just forgot what independent and dependent. Remember, the x is always the independent. Your y depends upon whatever the x is. So that's just something you have to remember. Your x, in this case, is the year. And the y is the newspaper sold. Everybody good with this? Everybody good? All right, is everybody happy with 48? 48's not bad, right? Back to just plugging numbers in. Now, 49, 50, and 51 are the important ones. Again, a big part of the test will be solving the absolute value stuff. Now, why is 50 the one that's troubling some kids? The reason is because we have to isolate the absolute value first. You have to isolate the absolute value first. Isolate first. So, how do I get rid of a minus 5? You add 5. That's why the 13 became a what? How do I get rid of a times 3? Divide by 3. That's where the 18 became a what? We don't want to distribute in an absolute value. Don't do that. Do not distribute in an absolute value. All right? Now, once you have it down to 2x minus 4 equals 6, it's just 2x minus 4 equals 6 and 2x minus 4 equals negative 6. And then just solve the equation, which I think most of you are pretty good at.
I don't really get what you mean about isolating that absolute value.
Okay, so let me just show you the big difference. It's so easy, you're going to go, wow. 49, the absolute value is isolated.
Oh, so you are.
The absolute value is by itself.
Oh, so you just, so you
50,
do like
the
plus
absolute
5.
value is not by itself.
Yeah.
There's garbage attached to the absolute value. Get rid of the garbage.
So you do like plus 5.
Plus 5 divided by 3. Now it's isolated.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's the difference. All right? 49, absolute value is isolated. 50, the absolute value is not isolated. Yes.
I don't get why you went from 18 to 6 now.
Because how do I get rid of this 3? If you see, listen, here's what I'm trying to teach you. If I see an 18 and a 3, how did I get 6?
You divided.
There you
Why
go.
wouldn't you multiply 3 by 2x and negative 4?
Because we already just said you cannot distribute through an absolute value. Never, never. Never, never. You hear me?
Yeah.
All right, isolate the absolute value. All right, make yourself notes now. All right, here we go. Oh, and 51 was a nice problem. The reason 51 was a nice problem because when you isolate, your absolute value ends up being set equal to a what? Negative. Listen now, make sure you hear me. Can your absolute value be equal to a negative? No. Everybody good? Therefore, it's no solution. Agreed?
But couldn't you have said that it was no solution when you saw negative 21?
No, because let me explain why. This is why that problem was up there. That's a very good question. What if this was negative 7? Now when I divide by negative 7, it becomes positive 3. Right? That's why I'm saying you can be fooled. You can't just look at this and say, well, it's negative, so it's no solution.
Oh, okay.
You with me? You got to double check that when you isolate, it doesn't become positive. All right? Very good question, actually. Okay, now look, these next problems are the important problems because these are the thinking questions. All right, these are all taken directly off an ACT test and an SAT test. All right, some of them are easy, some are a little bit harder. First of all, let's take a look at 52. So I plug in 7, then I plug in 5, and then what do I do with my answers? Subtract. Does everybody agree with this?
Yeah.
So if I plug 7 in, I get 10 over 2. Plug 5 in, I get 8 over 2. What?
Oh, wait,
Got it now?
Yeah.
Good. Any issues? All right, here we go. 53. Here's where I was. Now, look carefully, please. I've got to get rid of the dividing by 6. How do I get rid of dividing by 6? Right. So now I can come over here and just put a 6e, and now I get rid of that. Bear with me. And I'm solving for what letter? It says I'm solving for p. So now I just have to move the other two variables over. So if I have an o, on the other side it's going to be a what? Minus o. I have a 4m, so on the other side it's going to be a minus 4m.
I
Good.
don't get why you put the -0 and like the -4 underneath 6.
Well, that's an O. If I was writing this exam, I wouldn't use the letter O, because it looks like a 0.
But
It's a letter.
then what? I don't get why you would put that underneath it. Like I want just a little confused.
Okay, so let me show you this right here, kiddo. This will make it easy. That's where I'm at. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to solve for P. Do you agree?
Yeah.
If I'm trying to solve for P, I have to move the others out of the way. So I'm going to pick these things up. And I'm going to move this to this side. If I move something, I have to change the sign. So it's positive over here. It's going to be what? That's right. This, when I move this, that's right. So that's why it becomes 6e minus o minus 4m equals p.
I just don't get why you.
Because I'm solving for p. How do I know I'm solving for p? I looked at my choices. I'm trying to isolate p. I'm trying to get p by itself. Good? Come on now. You got that. Boys in the back, you all right? All right, here we go. 54 I thought was easy, right? Yeah, believe it or not, that's directly off a high school test. Easy. Simple. Yeah, these are actually, I'm telling you, these are actually taken directly off of SAT exams and ACT exams, which are tests that you take to get into college. I know, I'm agreeing with you. Like, why would they put that on there?
Like
Because,
54 is zero.
believe it or not, some
I'm not
people
gonna
don't.
complain about that. I'm not gonna complain about that.
All right, 55.
Yeah,
Now, 55 is a good little percent problem. Come on, we got a few more minutes now. So, here we go. 150% of a number is 460. So, 1.15 times x equals 460. You may have any issue with that. Of means to multiply. Now, in order to solve that, how do I undo the multiplication again? Division. So you take out your calculator, do 460 divided by 1.15, and notice it says x equals 400. Well, look, answer choice, 400. Is that the right answer, though?
No.
No, because we want to do what? 75% of that answer. 75% of 400, of course, is 300. Any issues on that? All right, another high school question.
So what is 1.15 times 460?
No, take out your calculator. I didn't multiply 1.15 times 460. There you go. Follow the math. That's why it's important to write things out so you can see it. All right, any questions with that? All right, let's see what's next. Yeah, now 56. Come on now. You got to pay attention on this. I highlighted. I just didn't tell you about increasing and decreasing. I'm just assuming you could look at a graph and say it's going up and it's going what? Down. And strictly increasing and then strictly decreasing goes from 40 to 60. And I even highlighted the blue and the red to show you it's going up and going down that interval. Is everybody okay with that? That's, again, that's a high school question. All right? Now, look at 57 for me. I tried to do different colors so you could see better because some kids thought this was hard. It's not. It's saying find f of -4. So to find f of -4, I went to the x value that's -4 and found what y value corresponded to that point. What y value corresponds to -4? 1. So I put a check. That works.
Now, some kids forgot what 3 divided by 2 is. What's 3 divided by 2? 3 divided by 2. You guys are killing me. 1.5. $3 in your hand. Give me half. I get $1.50. All right, so it's 1.5. So now go to the x value that's 1.5, which I labeled in green. What's the y value that corresponds to that green point? 1. Therefore, 1 and 2 worked. Right? Now, if 1 and 2 works, then the answer has to be D, right? But we're going to show you. When the x value is 3, go to 3. What's the y value? 1. Bear with me on that. That was something you should look over. That is something you definitely should look over. Okay? All right, let's scroll down.
Yeah, I think the next two are kind of easy. According to the line above, the number of portable media players sold in 2008 is what fraction of the number sold in 2011? Well, in 2008, I sold how much? Was 100. How much in 2011? The fraction reduces to 5/8. Y'all know you can do that on your calculator. Do this for me on your calculator. Let me show you something. On your graphing calculator, watch how cool this is. Ready? Here we go, listen. On your calculator, I want everybody to do this for me. Pay attention. On your graphing calculator, I want you to type in 100, then divided by 160. 100 divided by 160. And obviously, when you do that, you're going to get 0.625. I don't care about it being 0.625. I want to know it's a fraction. So I want everybody to hit the math button, and then FRAC pops up. What do you think that means? So hit math, then hit enter, then hit enter. And it spits it out as a fraction, 5/8. Very nice feature.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very, very nice feature. All right? So again, little things like that make a big difference. All right? On your calculator, graphic calculator, 5 divided by 8, math, enter, enter, and it will convert it to a fraction for you. Now look at 59, please. Everybody take a look at 59. G of 4, plug 4 in. The square root of 4 is what? 2. Divided by f of 1. Plug 1 in. 7. The answer, 2/7. Again, I don't see what's hard about that. All right? Any issues with that? Any issues? I'm not sure on what. Are you having trouble with the square root of 4? Shh. I'm listening. What? All right, now, oh, that's the end. All right. So again, tonight, listen, go through these problems. You're supposed to highlight your areas of weakness so you can review your weakness. All right, on an absolute value equation. I have kids miss 5 questions on a test last year because they forgot there were supposed to be 2 solutions. All right? If you forget absolute value, that's a big part. If you don't remember the formula for percent of increase or decrease, that's a big part. If you don't understand percentages, that's a big part. And understanding graphs. All right? Functional notation. I don't think it's that hard, but you got to practice a little bit. All right? Functions. Exactly. Domain, range, independent, dependent, y-intercept, x-intercept. You got to be able to talk about it.
So the x is just the...
Right. The x, right. The x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. All right? Perfect timing. Study, please. Study, study.